Trump says Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire that will start in 6 hours. Okay, that makes sense as to why Israel was striking super hard. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire upon the 24th hour. Wait, what? An official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. He said, good game, guys. Well played. He said, GGWP. Fox News is live with J.D. Vance explaining the ceasefire.
Destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. He seems confident that this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks,
I think they kicked the can down the road.
Failed effort to build a nuclear weapon is that they're just not very good.
I don't think.
And I think the
I do not
really
think Israel. By the way, ironically enough, America
long-term
didn't
peace
have
for
to
the region.
fucking
That's
respond
so
at all to this.
sensible.
They could have just done this without trying to blow up the Iranian nuclear facility. Make no mistake. They could have also stopped Israel from even fighting in Iran at all. They accomplished nothing except for more death for no reason, created panic, and basically Israel ate a bunch of missiles for the first time ever in its 77-year history that was actually consequential. Having said that, however, I do think that Israel's ambitions for destabilizing Iran have not gone away. That is still their ultimate goal. So we shall see how they behave going forward.
And the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours. And tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program. And I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
sure, 60%.
The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they, in fact, moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? You know, that's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is, again, what we destroyed, is their ability to enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity
everyone
you build
knows
up.
this.
I think
what
that
do you
lesson
mean?
is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission as regime.
They did this in 2002. They did this in Afghanistan. It was like, what? When was it? The longest running bombing mission was conducted by the same plane 20 years ago.
Again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security
Of course,
interest
Iran
here is
agreed to
very
a
simple.
ceasefire. They can carry on their nuke program in peace now. Dude, if they don't make nukes, they're so dumb. And I do suspect that they don't. So we'll see. But I could totally see them not doing nukes.
Artificial intelligence, hardware, they want to sort of come into the new economy. And that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward,
Iran was acting
a new
like a bully.
dawn of an economic age of prosperity. Of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody. But it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the...
I can't believe it. He did it again. Donald Trump did it again. He broke something for no reason and then let chaos unfold for an extended period of time, only to turn around and be like, look at how big of a savior I am. Does this man ever do anything that is not within the Trump playbook, where he just goes in, breaks something, and then it says he's going to continue breaking it, and then stops the further breaking process? Half of the shit's broken already, and goes, look how amazing I am. I just stopped. I could have broken way more. This is insane. He did it. He did the exact same thing on everything, from tariffs to any number of different things that he says he's going to do, it's always a spectacular failure. And the people are basically begging him not to do it from the start, only to turn around and be like, well, deportations. That's another one. People are like, dude, if you do these deportations, like, you're going to disrupt key sectors of business. Like, there is a lot of migrant workers in a lot of these places. Like, this is a tremendous instability. He's like, nope, we're doing it. And then he goes, actually, you know what? No more are we doing deportation for the good immigrants. They're working in the farms. Then why did you do it to begin with? It's everything from the wall to immigration to war.
Regime, because it's evil and horrible and has done
firing government employees only to rehire them instantly. It's only been 5 months, man. It's only been 5 months since this came into power. And he's basically done this. He's done this like 100 different times. It's so
classified documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you think
the elimination of the Iranian nuclear program. And I think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world.
I'm thinking about it. Has there been a single real problem that this man has solved?
And also some very, very competent work from our troops.
Has there been a single real problem?
You're going to do an interview and you get a true social seconds.
Republicans just invent
but it's
hysterically and then take initiative to quote unquote fix the problem that doesn't even exist, that they hallucinated. And in the process of quote unquote fixing this problem that didn't even exist, they create a ton more chaos and a ton more problems, only to then have the population begging to stop. And then they do actually end up stopping. And then they're like, come on, we're the savior. We are your salvation. We did it.
I'm going to do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish. And if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett.
COVID-19 vaccines were created on Trump's watch. Yeah, that's it. That's a signature accomplishment. That and the stimmy checks. Amazing.
Here's some other headlines tonight. Falling oil prices sent stocks up. The Dow surged 375. The S&P 500 finished ahead 57. The Nasdaq jumped 184. First major heat wave of the summer is hitting much of the nation. Temperatures soaring 10 to 20 degrees above average for more than 200 million Americans. Highs in the 90s, even creeping into the low 100s. The prosecution in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial expected to conclude its case tomorrow. Today, the jury viewed additional video recordings of the sex marathons that have played a prominent role in the case. Prosecutors have cited the drug-fueled multi-day events as evidence of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges. The U.S. Supreme Court.
I need everyone to understand something. If this ceasefire holds, and I need you to understand this, this did not have to happen at all. I cannot think of a dumber way that this could have gone. Like, no, Tehran is being hit right now because Israel oftentimes does one major barrage before they have to implement. Israel always goes all out on the last day of the ceasefire. They do that with Lebanon. They did that on the numerous short-term ceasefires in Gaza. I don't know if there's Iranian confirmation on the ceasefires yet, so I don't even know what that means. But Israel usually will go all out in their last barrage of missiles
that took part in Saturday's U.S. strikes on Iran. Congressman, really appreciate your time. Just to start with the breaking news, what is your understanding of what the president just announced? Has the House conference been briefed on this ceasefire?
Well, no, we haven't. I just arrived back from our district and Whiteman Air Force Base, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But look, Phil, this is what success.
CNN said Iran did not accept it. We don't know yet. Dude, first of all, I told you, Iran is the chillest, ironically enough. Iran is restrained to a fault. So it would not shock me at all if they said yes to this ceasefire. I told you this before. Iran is a glutton for punishment, dude. Are you kidding me? They love it. They love getting whipped around and then going, oh yeah, we don't want any more, please. Iran has not received a ceasefire proposal. Trump announces a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Oh my God. I wonder if he just told Israel this and then tweeted it out with the hopes that Iran will say yes, because he knows Iran will most likely say yes. Why is Iran being so chill? Because they are that's a weird way to say that. No, it's not a weird way to say that. They literally will get dominated over and over again by Israel and America, as they have so far, with the hopes that like America will stop punishing them super hard. God, we are living in the dumbest. This is the dumbest order of events, only to be even dumber tomorrow. That is a guarantee. But yeah, Iran said yes. Update: Iranian sources confirmed that the ceasefire with Israel has been agreed. According to one source, the truce will go into effect at 3:30 a.m. Jerusalem time. Is this not a big Iran W? They held out against nonstop strikes and did a significant amount of damage to Israel. I think it's not as bad for Iran as what could have happened. So yes, it is definitely a I think they're decently positioned on this. People that say no are not factoring in Israel's ambition here. I don't think this is over. I don't think this is over at all. And if it's actually over, it's only because Iran actually depleted the Israeli air defenses, which would be a pretty solid W. Chatters are saying this doesn't seem like it's real. It seems so sloppy. Yeah, that's the Trump administration. What do you mean? It's the motherfucking Trump administration, dude. What is your expectation from these guys? This is how they operate. This is who they are.
It was an incredibly impressive operation. We'll see if it leads to what the president and you hope for in the days and weeks ahead. Congressman Mark Alford, really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, Phil. Take care.
And up next, we'll continue to follow the breaking news. President Trump just announced a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Says it will begin in the next 6 hours. I'll get reaction from a former Army Lieutenant General who has extensive.
Live Aid, when rock and roll took on the world. Premieres July 13th on CNN.
It can be
big for peace in the Middle East.
Vice President, moments ago, talking about this breaking news, the response from Iran to the weekend attacks and President Trump's announcement of a ceasefire and how that all goes. We're going to talk about that in the future. Joining us, two experts on Iran, Kareem Sajidpour, he's of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and Norm Rule, a former CIA and Office of the Director of National Intelligence Manager for Iran. Norm, let me start with you.
Both are
ceasefire in the Truth Social, and I asked the Vice President about it. There's a healthy dose of skepticism because the Iranians don't have a great track record of meeting whatever they talk about, either publicly or privately. Is that fair?
That's more than fair.
I'm going to keep it $150. This is not as much as an Iranian victory as it is kind of a major L for Israel. This is not as much of an Iranian victory, but it is a ginormous L for Israel. Israel came in, wanted to actually up any kind of like standing that Iran might have, pushed America into it, got their pushed it in the process, at least their air defenses, and now can't even, unless things change, and chatters, things might change. Remember, Israel's a very dangerous, very unstable government, but this was a spectacular L for Israel. Because their goal, and this is not a secret, their goal is Iran becoming a failed state. Their goal is to basically erode the Iranian state capabilities and to have them never be able to send missiles that penetrate the Israeli defenses ever again. And all they got in the process was like America forcibly coming into the equation. No actual military priorities were accomplished in this process, and they didn't even get to do the full prize, which is regime destabilization, like complete dismantling of the regime, and turning Iran into a fail state. It's crazy. Several airstrikes within the last minutes at northeastern Tehran is a major L for Iran, man. Iran basically declared they have zero deterrence and Israel can go again. Why wouldn't they go for assassinations on Iranian leaders next? As long as there are no troops deployed, the American public will eat it up. No, that's why I said I don't think it's a W for Iran, but it is a major L for Israel. Iran being fooled a third time? Oh, no, for sure. They got nothing, and Israelis felt actual weapons on home soil. Benny's finished as it stands? I don't think so. I don't think he is. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu is finished after this. No real announcement from Khamenei, by the way. Why would Iran agree with the ceasefire while Israel's still bombing? Every country in the region knows that when Israel is at the precipice of a ceasefire, they bomb extra hard. Weird. Axios says Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire that will begin in 6 hours. This makes no sense. No Iranian sources said anything. I'm not even kidding when I say I'm not even kidding. Like, I can see. I don't know what Amwaj Media's. This is breaking news that will be continuously updated. Iran and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire. Morandi said it's fake. No ceasefire, fake news. Zionists are in trouble. I don't know. I think Iran will eat the ceasefire at any off ramp that Iran will get, they'll take. I think as much as I respect Syed Mohammed Morandi, I think I could see America being like, "Oh, it's a ceasefire, we did it," without telling Iran, knowing full well that Iran will most likely take on the ceasefire or something. I'm actually surprised. Is this successful deterrence? I mean, 12 hours for Israel to begin ceasefire, but 6 hours for Iran. This seems very strange to give Israel 6 hours of unrestrained and unopposed attacks on Iran. Yes, it could be another trick from the Trump administration. Don't know why the Iranian government would agree to such a idiotic proposal. Trump's claim for a ceasefire agreement between the Zionist regime and Iran. Donald Trump claimed a ceasefire agreement to end the war between the Zionist regime and Iran. Meanwhile, CNN reported citing a senior Iranian official that Tehran had not received any ceasefire proposals. A senior Iranian official told CNN that Iran will continue to fight until a lasting peace is achieved and considers Israeli and American statements to be a deception to justify attacks on Iranian interests. The official said at this very moment the enemy is attacking Iran and Iran is on the verge of escalating its retaliatory attacks and is not listening to the lies of its enemies. The funny thing about misdirection as a war tactic is that you can only credibly use it once before it's nullified. Trump did that with the initial Israel attacks on Iran, but now they've painted themselves as untrustworthy in perpetuity over it. No, but it doesn't matter. When you're the most powerful state, it doesn't matter. People are desperate to believe you. You know what I mean? Let's see what Al Jazeera is saying.
That I don't want to be too hopeful. Is that we see the continuation of Israeli strikes, whether or not this social media post is going to be translated into real, let's say, peace or real suspension of the strikings between the two sides remains to be really seen. We have to keep in mind that there are several points in this regard. First, we have to wait to see whether Iran is going to accept that proposal. Second, we are not sure if Israelis are going to accept that proposal because of the very fact that we see the continuation. Also, by nature, this is not a fair proposal. You just give some time for one of these sides to continue their strikes, ask the other to keep silent, and go on with just being silent and then receiving more and more attacks targeting your territories. That doesn't seem fair, and of course this is going to be something that should be taken into consideration when it comes to Iran's calculations. And at the time being, Iran is trying to use the most possible amount of strategic precision when it comes to the next steps down the road. And also there is one important point that also, Cyril, we have to keep in mind. The Iranians are saying that they're going to continue to strike back as long as the Israeli strikes continue. The reality on the ground is far from that point that we can see a ceasefire at the time being, since they are continuing. And also, it was the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a couple of days ago, coming out to say that Iran is not going to accept any imposed peace. If this recent statement by U.S. President is going to be considered as an imposed peace, obviously based upon the previous statements, we can say that Iran may not accept it. But still, we don't have any official statement. We don't have any official.
What if this is a way to be like, oh, Iran, like just lie and say Iran told us that we accepted a ceasefire only to continue bombing Israel, so we have to actually be the peacekeepers in the region and attack Iran, maybe. I don't know. I don't know anymore. This is not a normal state. America, I'm saying this with 100% sincerity. I know this is probably shocking for some people to hear, because your expectation is that like the United States of America is supposed to be this like honest actor here. But I can't trust America's statements. I definitely can't trust Israel. And I 100% in this process, at least, trust the Iranian side and their assessment of the situation or what they are saying a lot more than I do America. They're not the ones who were like, oh, let's do a negotiation and then attacked. I mean, we're doing a war, but it wasn't a war before Israel made it a war. What do you mean? You can't say we're doing a war.
Donald Trump says
it literally wasn't a war before Israel decided it is supposed to be a war. Breaking CNN citing an Iranian official, Tehran has not received any proposal for a ceasefire. The statements of Israel and the United States are a trick to justify attacks on Iranian interests, and at this moment, the enemy is attacking Iran. I will say, Israel does actually increase the intensity of the strikes right before, and they have increased the intensity of the strikes today. So right before a ceasefire happens, Israel notoriously will blow up way more than they normally do. Yet another reason why you should not trust them ever. I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. I don't know. An incredibly stupid spectacle. Iran's semi-official mayor's new agency casting doubt on Trump, alleging of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, preceding the publishing of the text of his announcement with the headline, "Liar Trump's imaginary plan to establish a ceasefire." Iran issues evacuation warning for Tel Aviv residents. Okay, that means that they're still striking Israel. Iran has issued an evacuation warning for the residents of Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv. The move comes shortly after an Israeli military spokesman issued a similar warning to the residents of an area in Iranian capital Tehran, saying the army would be launching an attack. Bro, what the is happening? I don't know anymore. What? I'm sorry. This is the stupidest. What? Scroll down. Keep reading. Why are you saying scroll down? Why? There's nothing else. It's like older. There are no W's for Iran as long as the U.S. is allowed to do shock and awe air superiority warfare. U.S. will have favorable trades when it comes to exchanging bombs. It will only escalate. They normalize killing Iranian generals and calling it a special operation as if it's not escalating a war. Why wouldn't U.S./Israel push it further in a month? They will. I think they will. That's why I'm saying it's not a W for Iran at all. People who say this is a major W for Iran are coping. Iran is weak. Like in 2020, when Donald Trump executed Qasem Soleimani, Iran was still weak, and it didn't show any significant retaliatory measures to make any of the surrounding nations that played a role in this actually suffer repercussions for doing such a severe escalation of violence, for withstanding such a severe escalation of violence from America. Israel flew into Iran amidst negotiations and assassinated multiple IRGC commanders, basically brought fresh faces into the IRGC. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi said Tehran's attack on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar came in response to the U.S. aggression. He said Iran will be ready to respond again in case of further action by the U.S., according to a statement posted by the Foreign Ministry's account on Telegram. That this is meaningless. Okay, yeah, they'll do another symbolic
Trump's
retaliation.
word with a grain of salt when he's like, total victory. We don't know if it's total victory yet.
Yeah, and to be clear, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but like the reason why I'm saying I'm still trying to think through how to think about it, like there's just a lot of detail, plus decades of failed negotiations or pulling out or stringing along of these particular players and actors in this particular region.
Here's my insane conspiracy hour. Are you ready for this? Wee woo, insane conspiracy alert. Let's say Mossad has actually deeply penetrated the IRGC and they assassinated the top level leadership, the highest level of loyalty. And actually all these other people that are in the IRGC that are now taking their places are all also pro-Israel people. And then they facilitate a military coup. Obviously, this is unlikely, but I'm saying maybe that's what they're going to do. Who knows? That's why they killed all the high level IRGC people.
Hours, I think, after she posted on
that's my conspiracy.
X, it feels like a complete bait and switch.
I don't believe this, by the way.
The neocons, warmongers,
I don't know. I'm just shooting the shit. Everything is so insane. So, brother, look at what Mossad did with Eli Cohen in Syria. I wouldn't be surprised. It just feels like after Iran stops, Israel will assassinate Ayatollah. I just feel like could that happen? I mean, they would have. I feel like they would have assassinated Ayatollah right now. Like this was their opportunity. I genuinely believe that when Israel started this, they thought they could bring America fully. And I think they thought they could withstand. I think they thought they could withstand Iranian counters better than they actually did. So they failed on that front, which actually limited the amount of time that they had to conduct military campaigns. They successfully brought the United States into the conversation, but not beyond the initial point of escalation, especially because Iran did not eat the bait and then severely escalate and punish America or even close the Strait of Hormuz. So now there's this supposedly quote unquote fake ceasefire. Israel did take an L on two fronts. It took an L because it wanted to do the final solution to Iran, destabilize the Iranian government, destroy it as a state, and it failed to do so. It failed to bring America in to be able to do this final ambition. How is it fake? Well, the Iranian side says that it's not real. Israel is bombing Tehran. Iran is saying that they're going to bomb Tel Aviv any moment now. Doesn't seem like a very good ceasefire proposal. I still think it's probably real, but I don't know. I think you're wrong. Israel predicted they would lose about 4,000 to 5,000 people in a war with Iran, and they only lost about 6. Are you insane? You think the Israeli government was willing to kill 5,000 Jews in Israel so they could bomb Iranian military positions? Do you know how much of a destabilizing force that would be for Israeli society? Israel would be over. They might as well end the government right then and there. Yeah, what they say and what they actually believe is crazy. Brother, who would you ever be able to prove to? Who would you ever be able to prove to that like Tel Aviv is the safest place on the planet for Jews ever again? If Israel's actions amounted to 5,000 Jews dying in the process because they literally decided that they wanted to go to war with Iran, and then Iran just pummeled the residential buildings and pummeled the neighborhoods and even the bunkers and like that, it would be over. That the Israeli project is done. America would also join I think America would probably join the fight the moment that like more than 25 elderly Jewish people died. They also failed at keeping the war going on for longer, so attention come back to Gaza to some extent, if this report is true. 50 civilians seeking aid were massacred earlier today, as in many other days, but it got negligible media coverage. Usually this would be on the front page of Haaretz, but everything is full of Iran now, and I'm sure this is true to an extent internationally. It absolutely is. No one is even remotely talking about Gaza. I have here, but I have yet to see any serious coverage being talked about in Gaza. The one senator, much props, is given here, is Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen tweeted yesterday, released a statement saying 400 plus Palestinians were slaughtered on their way to receive aid, to get aid, while since the beginning of Israel's strikes on Iran. Very little attention has been given to Israel's conduct in Gaza. What is this? No, this is the same article that we saw. This is the only article that we've seen that confirms. Yeah, did Iran actually agree to silently absorb Israeli fire for 12 hours straight? What a strange agreement. I don't think it's real. Kyle calls it a fake ceasefire. Okay, well, Kyle Kalinske is even less of a direct party. I would rather listen to Yashar than Kyle Kalinske on this. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Like, I love Kyle, but what the does he know about what's going on internally in Iran? At least Yashar has like relatives and can sometimes break news Iran related. Taking shots at Kyle because he cooked his dumbass uncle? No. No, I love Kyle. And the only reason why I couldn't watch Kyle destroy Uncle Chunk Weigert is because I couldn't stand to watch him get eviscerated. Kyle's just speculating like you, bro. Relax. Yo, that's what I'm saying. Guys, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I love Kyle, and I respect Kyle's analysis. But what the does he know? He knows just as little as I do about whether or not this ceasefire is real. I'm looking for a primary source here, okay? I'm looking for, like, even the Iranian news agencies are not a primary source in this situation. I need the foreign minister to say something, or I need the Ayatollah's account to tweet something. like this right here. Trump announced that Iran will start the ceasefire first upon the 12th hour, and Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, there will be an official end to the war. This is primarily what is making me very skeptical of this news. Who has ever heard of a ceasefire agreement where one side agrees to stop firing, but the other side is explicitly allowed to keep attacking for another 6 hours? And as well, what does it mean that there's an official end to the war 12 hours after the ceasefire? There was no official war declaration. This is an invention of Trump's brain where countries officially declare war on each other. Like none of this makes sense. What is going on? God damn it, this government is so stupid. I'm sorry. We have shred every single, like, I don't want to, at the risk of sounding like a liberal, I do want to say there are some rules and some norms that are important to abide by so that we can make sense of events that are unfolding, so that we can have a sense of stability. Okay? This is one of those things where, like, the president shouldn't be irresponsibly tweeting out the end to a 12-day conflict without every party agreeing to it. Like, this should be an official communique. And it makes it really hard to read Trump's Truth Social post, not even Twitter posts, but his Truth Social posts as official communiques of the government. Like, he's the last person. Al Arabiya says, an Iranian official confirms an agreement has been reached to stop the war between Iran and Israel. Like, this is the only account. I mean, this seems more official, but, like, does it mean that it's the 12-hour, 6-hour deal? You giving Trump props or still hating? Why would I give him props for anything? Are you stupid? What is their prop? If Trump's quote unquote ceasefire is real, okay, what was accomplished? What the was accomplished here? They were in the midst of a negotiation. Israel struck amidst the negotiation and then got a bunch of city blocks reduced to rubble in retaliation in Israel as well. 12 days of complete halt to any economic activity for Tel Aviv and for Israel in general. They had their energy grid attacked. Iran didn't have nukes anyway. We don't even know if they, like, actually successfully hit Fordow, which is deep underground. But it doesn't even matter because the enriched uranium wasn't in Fordow. Iran had revealed that far before America came in and struck Fordow. So what happened? Donate to denims, everyone. Okay. Also, of course, note with the Nobel Peace Prize talk, starting a war right now was a choice by Netanyahu that Trump enabled. He then set a risky new precedent of direct U.S. attacks on Iran, which will be called upon in the future, and dramatically hardened sentiments in Tehran. We're about to see an avalanche of this spin. Note that U.S. and Iranian officials and experts are clear Iran's nuclear program faced limited damage, which means the root of the current crisis is yet to be tackled. Doing so peacefully was always hard. This war likely made it harder. I don't understand this at all, man. Iranian state-affiliated media. Yeah, that's Mer News, which is... What is happening? And now the Israel Defense Forces have released 2 more evacuation orders for both Mehran and District 6 in northern Tehran. And Iran said they're going to retaliate and hit Tel Aviv. You're the news guy? Brother, I'm the news guy, but the news is insane. For the record, this does not mean that there is no ceasefire, for the record. I just need you to understand. Breaking, New York Times, Israeli military spokesman declines to comment on Trump's ceasefire statement. What? We trust Iran media now? Wait, what? Yes. There are different, like, Fars, I think, is like what? The highest level. Like, the Iranian state media is the most reliable as far as, like, official communiques, which resembles official communiques. Mer is semi reliable. It's a state affiliated outlet. Okay. And the highest degree of reliability is directly coming from the Ayatollah account or another official like the foreign minister or something like that. This does make me think that there may be something happening, but that Trump jumped the gun or they're refusing to comment because they have no idea what's going on. Iran's New York mission declined to comment to France 24 when asked if they have received the ceasefire proposal from the U.S., whether or not Tehran has accepted it. This was all just war propaganda for Israel. J.D. Vance is already calling it a 12-day war now, and they're going to say this was the war that Israel obliterated Iran's nukes. It was never about nukes. that doesn't mean anything. What the American government says about how successful this was means nothing. It's lower than dirt. Nobody trusts America. They can try and pump this to the dumbest morons, but there's already enough partisan enmity inside of the United States of America, especially because Trump mishandles like this all the time, that this means that the dumbest NPCs that you know will go, dude, Trump did a 12-day nuclear agreement with fucking Israel. He's your president. He's the GOAT. That's it. No one other than the dumbest people in America will respond to this positively, unless it's a real ceasefire, in which case there might be some people that will eat that propaganda. But I don't know. I don't know what is going on. According to Reuters, Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Al Thani secured Iran's agreement to a U.S. ceasefire proposal during a phone call recently with Tehran. I mean, that's Osen defender. I don't know. Trump may be claiming a ceasefire, but he supported an Israeli assault on Iran in the middle of diplomacy. If this truce is real, will Israel now halt its assassinations and sabotage? None of its strategic goals were achieved. The ceasefire would now mark Israeli failure. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what's happening. I'm telling you, I don't know what's happening. There is no way to know what's happening, because this is the most, Trump is so insane that it is impossible to know what is happening. Okay? But if you think Israel striking Iran means that a ceasefire is not happening, that's not the case. Israel always strikes way harder before, if anything, it's further proof that a ceasefire might be happening, because Israel strikes way harder when a ceasefire is imminent. I don't know the details of the ceasefire, however, because the idea that like there's going to be a 6-hour period where Israel can strike without ever getting struck back is insane to me. I don't know why Iran would ever agree to such a decision. But yeah, Israel always does this. They did it in Lebanon. This is their modus operandi. This is the way they operate. Check Al Jazeera. It's breaking news.
The equation for Israel. But I agree with a lot of observers and analysts that believe that Israel's intentions were much greater than simply knocking out Iran's nuclear program. It was about...
If this ceasefire holds, if this is like a real ceasefire, it's a major L to Israel, but it's also still a significant L to Iran. And I don't think Israel will stop in its ambitions of destabilizing Iran. But they didn't achieve it in this 12-day war. That was their goal. That's the reason why they started it. It had nothing to do with the nukes or anything like that.
Hegemony in the region, and it sees the last kind of remaining obstacle to that as, Iran and its axis of resistance in the region. So I think it was dead set on changing that equation inside of Iran. It obviously hasn't accomplished that. Will it be satisfied with a serious degradation of Iran's nuclear program? Maybe that's enough. Maybe Netanyahu has changed his fortunes within the Israeli political calculus as a result of this, as a result of getting the Americans on board to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Maybe that's enough of a win where all sides feel a sense of accomplishment.
This is Al Jazeera, live from Doha. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom with extended coverage of the latest escalation in the Middle East. In the last hour, President Donald Trump has announced what he says is a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran. He's congratulated both countries for agreeing to a complete and total end to hostilities. He says the ceasefire will take effect in stages over 24 hours. Neither Israel nor Iran have confirmed that they've agreed to such a ceasefire. This is what President Trump wrote. Congratulations, everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions. For 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially,
what does that mean?
Ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire.
What does that mean?
And upon the 24th hour,
what does any of this mean, dude? Like, does this imply that Trump is also... Does this mean that Trump is also giving credence to the Iranian operations on Israel? Like, he's like, yeah, Iran has got to conduct some operations in Israel as well. Like, what does that mean?
To end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. We'll be unpacking the latest developments shortly with our correspondents in Amman, Tehran, and Washington, D.C. Let's go live now to Heidi Jo Castro. She joins us from Washington, D.C. So, Heidi, the speed with which all this is developing is pretty remarkable. You know, in the past couple of days, you've had Donald Trump first suggesting that regime change might be possible in Iran.
What is
now, in this post, he's saying, God bless Iran. All of this happening so quickly. What else have you been hearing?
That's right. And we're getting a little more reporting from the news agency Reuters, which says that Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance had discussed the ceasefire with the Emir of Qatar shortly after Iran had launched those airstrikes against the U.S. airbase there, and that they were informing the Qataris that Israel at that point had agreed to the ceasefire and were asking the Qataris for help to then persuade Iran to also agree. Reuters also reporting that Qatar's prime minister was the one that secured Iran's agreement to the U.S. ceasefire proposal in a call with Iran. Those are the latest lines as far as how this ceasefire announced by the U.S. president developed. We also heard more from his vice president speaking on Fox News shortly after Trump announced the ceasefire on social media. J.D. Vance, a vice president, saying that he had seen Trump on the phone at the White House leading up to the moment that he departed the White House, that the two had been working on the terms of this deal, that it had shifted a bit in the last 2 hours, and then giving the U.S. president credit, saying for taking the deal across the finish line, and then saying that this 12-day war, as Trump now wants to coin it, is an important reset moment for the entire region. So again, of course, as we have been cautioning, we're still waiting for confirmation from Iran, from Israel, about the terms of this deal. But as announced by Trump, and if it takes effect, as he says, it indeed would be a diplomatic coup, dramatic turnaround, as you said, in just the last few days, going from Trump saying that he was open to regime change in Iran to now saying, God bless Iran. And then after this airstrike from Iran against the Air Force Base, the U.S. Air Base in Doha, all of this happening in just the last few hours, and certainly giving Trump that much sought after ceasefire as the deal maker.
Okay. Reuters Iran correspondent has confirmed it. Senior Iranian official confirms to Reuters Tehran agreeing to Qatar mediated U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. So the outline is being formed here. It's like, I think Trump just got off the phone and instantly locked it. Like, I think he just got off the phone and just started tweeting. Okay. I'm trying to make sense of what took place just now in this like last hour. Okay. And I think he just basically just threw it out there. Okay. And in the process of tweeting like a child, he might have just like written the wrong thing as far as like the boundaries of the ceasefire, which is why everyone was confused. Because like I think that the ceasefire is probably not giving a 6-hour window to Israel to continue striking Iran without any retaliation. That feels very weird. That doesn't make any sense. Like that's not how any of this works, right? So I don't know if that happened. Also, Israeli strikes hits Tehran despite Trump's ceasefire announcement. It's been over 40 minutes since Donald Trump announced that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel to begin in 6 hours. The Israeli military, since the announcement, issued evacuation warnings to Tehran's District 6 and 7, as well as the Mehran area, citing imminent strikes on regime infrastructure. Shortly afterward, Israeli warplanes launched multiple airstrikes across the Iranian capital, Tehran. Iran's state-affiliated Mer News reported explosions in several neighborhoods in northern and eastern Tehran, along with additional blasts in unnamed cities. In response, Iran has issued an evacuation warning for Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv, also reported by Mer. Iran has reportedly downed another Israeli Hermes drone downed in Tehran. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the most insane things that I've ever had the displeasure of reporting on in real time. This is truly unique. As I said in the initial possible ceasefire implementation, it is not unique for Israel to strike and strike super hard right at the precipice of a ceasefire. As a matter of fact, this further confirms that the ceasefire is real. What doesn't make sense about the ceasefire boundaries that Trump just tweeted out unceremoniously, but very normal for Trump, is that Iran would agree to a ceasefire for in the next 6 hours, whereas Israel gets to keep bombing for an additional 6 hours. That doesn't make sense. Behind the scenes, the ceasefire was agreed upon through Qatari and American mediation between Israel and Iran. Sources familiar with the matter said after the attack on the American base, Iran conveyed a message to the White House via Qatar that it would not carry out further attacks and that its response was over, according to a source familiar with the details. The White House responded to Iran with its own message emphasizing that it would not respond militarily to the Iranian attack and that the United States was ready to resume negotiations on the nuclear agreement. Talks then continued between the U.S. and Israel and between Qatar and Iran to agree to terms of the ceasefire and the time at which it would begin. Netanyahu has ordered ministers to not comment on the recent developments until further notice. Source Israeli Channel 12. Okay, so considering, here, let's operate on the notion that this ceasefire is real, okay? Let's also further operate on the notion that the ceasefire does not have a 6-hour additional window of striking for Israel because it's a normal ceasefire as opposed to whatever the Trump tweeted out, okay? Let's say this ceasefire was implemented and it's a real ceasefire. It makes sense that Iran would say yes to it. As I told you time and time again, Iran, given how restrained its retaliation has been against Israel and certainly against the United States of America, just purely symbolic to say, like, we're still here and we have the capabilities of striking your bases. It was an off-ramp for America and it was an off-ramp for Iran, and America took that off-ramp, so it makes sense. This, however, is horrible for Israel. The reason why this is horrible for Israel is because when Israel initially implemented this operation, I don't know, Gay Lion or whatever the they called it, I forget, Lion in the night sky like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now. When they started the Operation Prosperity Lion, okay, when they did that, when they said Israel is lion, not India, okay, Operation Israel is the real lion, not India. Stop saying India is lion too, sir. When they started that, their goal wasn't to just, like, I don't know, take out the nuclear facilities or some shit. Their goal was, and the reason why they started with a decapitation strike was to finally hit the big one, hit the big target, destabilize Iran, regime change in Iran. Now, their calculations might have changed in the process over the course of the past 12 days because they were not able to keep up defenses they were not maybe able to keep up their defenses, and they didn't have the capacity to continue going, and they weren't able to bring in America in a more significant way, okay? And therefore, they had to stand down. But ultimately, this would be a big L for Israel's goals, because Israel did not just want to, I don't know, disrupt the nuclear negotiations. They wanted to disrupt the nuclear negotiations with an additional goal. And the goal is, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Trump W, it's Jover, wrong. Copium, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Wrong on what? So Israel just wanted to what? Strike Iran? That's what it is for like a couple days to get their nuts off? Like, what do you mean? Israel from its announcements from the start signaled that this was the final battle, the crown jewel. Okay? Chair and rope, Hasan. Why don't you just tell me to kill myself? Why do you have to go through this like route? I mean, it's not going to happen. But what do you mean chair and rope? Thoughts on 9/11? Trump 2020, baby. Some items have more value on traders, but items like a GPU will go for more on flea market. This motherfucker's been following me since 2019. What did Iran really do to Israel? It seems like not much. No, I think the fact that Iran was able to, for 12 days in a row, pummel Israel and keep Israeli society inside of bunkers is pretty significant. You have to remember, Israel's never experienced this kind of retaliation before. What they lost in the process is also super significant, which is precisely the reason why I did not say that this was a W for Iran, but it was an L for Israel. But make no mistake, the fact that Israel's currently striking Tehran with increased intensity does not mean that there is no ceasefire. It actually is further evidence that a ceasefire is imminent. Israel always strikes with extra intensity on the last couple of hours of a ceasefire process. Thank you for the 100 gifted subs, Burgles. Perhaps this could be a way to buy time and replenish Israel's Iron Dome interceptors and then relaunch the aggression later. That could be the case. And this time they could start with like a straightforward decapitation strike to push the entire region into further chaos. I don't think Israel is happy with this situation. No matter what they say, they will probably come around and claim that they got massive W's here. The joint partnership is stronger than ever before. But I don't think they're happy with this effort at all, because their goal was to bring America. Their goal was to basically bring America into the fold and take the war to Iran. Clipped and shipped. Wait, what? You're such a clown. Based Zach Rar. Mocking the working class again, eh, Hasan? Trump too based. You soy losers can't handle it. Put more words in his mouth. Oh my God, all the Trump supporters are crying in the chat. Amazing. You're right, guys. Your glorious God King, he did it. He brought the world back to, 12 days prior. Because if you recall, before Israel struck Iran, the position was Iran wasn't striking Israel and Israel wasn't striking Iran. None of the military goals were achieved in the process. They didn't get the enriched uranium. I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though it's like a... I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though this is like a significant W. A question, with Iran striking, can the U.S. invoke NATO like they did Iraq? I mean, they're not going to do that.
Saying is that, look, if the war ended, if this agreement was reached, Israel still reserved the right to respond and hit Iran if they felt, one, any sort of threat, but also if they saw that Iran was rearming, if they felt that Iran was rebuilding the nuclear facilities that, according to the U.S., have been obliterated, but still there has been nothing official from the Israeli government. It's worth mentioning that Netanyahu himself, along with all of his government officials, have repeatedly broken ceasefire agreements in the past. We saw this in Lebanon and we saw this in Gaza, and it's actually still ongoing in Lebanon because that agreement is still in place, though fragile. During the ceasefire in Gaza several months ago, there were continuous Israeli strikes and hundreds of people who were killed because Israel claimed that there were violations of the agreement, which gave them this green light to respond. They say the same thing about attacking what they call targets in southern Lebanon and assassinating other officials related to Hezbollah. So there are a lot of concerns about a ceasefire agreement when it comes to Israel maintaining it, because some of their conditions are so severe. Iran not rebuilding any sort of nuclear facilities, Iran not rearming, not continuing to build weapons, but still nothing official from the Israeli prime minister.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Salhoud joining us live from Amman in Jordan. Thanks so much, Hamda. Adam Clements is a U.S. foreign policy analyst and former Pentagon official. He joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Adam, thanks so much for being with us here on Al Jazeera. Let me ask you first, there have been so many developments the past few days and the past few hours.
Iran now says agreed. Trump, Israel and Iran agree to ceasefire. Iran have not received any ceasefire proposal. Israel decline to comment on ceasefire. Iran now says agreed to U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. All while Israel is still striking Iran, and Iran is still stating that they will strike Israel. Israel and U.S. going to strike again when they get close to the nuke, so this ceasefire is just a piece of paper to wipe your ass with. Dude, the Iran nuclear enrichment was simply a way to harden their position so they can actually maintain their civilian nuclear infrastructure. Okay? They were under no obligation to not enrich uranium because Trump had already destroyed the JCPOA and was already sanctioning them as though they had violated the JCPOA when they hadn't. Of course they're going to enrich uranium. What are you talking about? It is a way to try to gain leverage so that you can reduce the sanctions or just, end the sanctions entirely. Honestly sad seeing so many Gen Z service members cheering this on like another forever war is something we need, being cutesy and acting like this is an immediate W. A lot of them weren't born in 2003. I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, they got their hearts set out. They'll learn the lesson the hard way, I think. The fate of every active duty service member is to either, become the dumbest hog of all time, or to inevitably become a Hasan Abihed and a dedicated anti-war veteran. That's it. There's only two ways for the Western man. In both ways, your wife is probably having sex with Jody. In both of those pathways, there are some similarities regardless. And you either learn the lesson the hard way and change trajectory, or or you just never learn that lesson and you continue and you become a Fox News commentator. USA still blew Iran's nuclear sites. Wouldn't that be a W for Israel nonetheless? No, dude. Why the would that be a W for Israel? Israel doesn't give a about Iran's nuclear capabilities. America doesn't give a about Iran's nuclear capabilities. They don't have nukes. That's just a lie that they told everybody so they could justify going to war with Iran. What is happening? It's kind of interesting how quickly people will just go, yeah, these administrations that have lied in perpetuity and in broad daylight, I'm going to believe the things that they're telling me. Like, what happened? What happened to like a healthy dose of skepticism? This doesn't make any sense. If reports of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran are substantiated, expect an Iranian civil war between royalists and MEK supporters in exile. Rudy Giuliani has already fired the first shot on behalf of his MEK patrons. Yeah, the real civil war is going to be between the MEK and the royalists on who gets to be the true puppet for the inevitable Iranian regime change. Diplomat briefed on the ceasefire talks on Fox News. President Trump spoke with Qatar's emir and informed him the U.S. got Israel to agree with the ceasefire with Iran. The president asked Qatar to help persuade Iran to do the same. Following the Vice President Vance coordinated with Qatar's Prime Minister on the details. This effort proved successful, and following discussion with the Qatari PM and the Iranians agreed. The deal was coordinated at the highest level by the president and vice president and the Qatari emir and prime minister directly. Despite having been attacked just hours earlier, the Qataris set aside their grievances and prioritized regional security to get the deal done, the diplomat added. Iran did not get regime change by the collective West and Israel. They won easy. No, they didn't. They did not win. This is not a W for Iran. Okay? I mean, Israel, it's an L for Israel, but it's not a W for Iran. Please. Israel literally came in amidst negotiations with the West, showed that they had the capacity to actually manipulate Western nations and even the United States of America and bring them onto the cause, assassinated a ton of IRGC commanders, and established air superiority over key parts of Iran in the process, kept bombing Iran in the process. No, it's not a massive W for it's not a W for Iran at all. Yes, they avoided regime change for now. They avoided becoming a fail state for now. That doesn't mean that this ended. So Vietnam lost against the U.S.? No, Vietnam did not lose against the United States because Vietnam was able to literally stop the U.S. forces and become a singular state again, a state led by the Vietnamese. Iran and the regime change ambitions have not actually stopped. Defender always wins when they stop aggressor. No, because the aggressor has not stopped is what I'm saying. Do you think Israel is done? You think Israel is like, all right, I guess we just took this L, it's over? No, of course not. That's why I'm saying it's more so a spectacular defeat for Israel as opposed to a major victory for Iran. Seeing more reports on this, seems they definitely assassinated someone. Reports of possible assassination strike in Tehran. Yeah, we haven't even made damage assessments on what this last round of Israeli missile strikes look like either. So there's also that. Initial reports of a targeted assassination strike against a senior official of the Iranian capital of Tehran. It's not even killed the negotiator. Bet you anything. I can see that. Does Iran win in showcasing Americans' barbarism? Obviously, America's always been barbaric, but on a world stage, no. Nobody gives a shit. Every world leader, I mean, just like China was not able to, I think, successfully show to the Western leaders that America is a unreliable ally and unfit to lead global trade in the tariffs back and forth, even though they had a lot more power to do so than Iran. I don't think that Iran showing restraint and their interest in diplomacy does anything to leadership of the Western world. They all despise Iran. They also, I think, have drafted a withdrawal. Iran, I think, drafted a withdrawal from leaving the International Atomic Agency energy. So that's a ginormous L for everybody except for Iran.
U.S. interests as well in this, with those missiles launched at the U.S. base in Qatar hours ago. Out front now, Senator Chris Murphy of the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator Murphy, so Trump says there's this complete and total ceasefire. We have, it seems to be, muzzling out of Israel, right? They're not talking, which would indicate, as Jeremy says, perhaps something. Explosions in Tehran, but neither side speaking. Is this ceasefire real?
Well, I have no idea. I mean, what we know is that Donald Trump doesn't tell the truth a lot, so you can't rely on Donald Trump's statements. And frankly, you can't rely on what Iran says either. Remember, Iran may agree that it's not going to launch direct attacks against Israel or the United States, but Iran traditionally exercises power, lethal power, through its proxies. Its proxies inside Lebanon, its proxies inside Iraq. And so this is still going to be a very dangerous moment. Let's hope that this is a ceasefire that is real. Let's hope that this is an end, at least temporarily, to the hostilities. But let's also understand that Iran has agreed to a lot of things over the years because of the way in which it uses these terrorist groups, which are spread out all across the region, that are very close to U.S. forces. Anything official out of Tehran probably isn't worth, much more than the paper that it's written on.
Well, I mean, of course, you're also in the context of, we understand the Ayatollah is in a bunker because Netanyahu said he could take him out at any time, and Trump has talked about regime change. So does that mean that that's all over? Regime change is off the table? I mean, I'm only saying this in the context of some things are impossible to put back in the bottle. Sometimes when people show you who they are, they've shown you who they are. And it seems that we have passed such.
Yeah, I think this assessment from Seamus is not entirely correct. The reason why I say this is because Iran does not have the smoke. They've shown that time and time again. They do not want further war. They do not want more bombing campaigns in Tehran, no matter what. That's it. As I said from the start, that any off-ramp that America gives to Iran, Iran will take. And they did. Any off-ramp.
Range, this might get worse for the United States, not better. So, we still don't even have all the facts to know how impactful this strike was, but it certainly is going to alter the calculus of the Iranian regime.
Right. And of course, the ceasefire is a pause to, I mean, we hear obviously leveled in the Ukraine war all the time, would be a pause to rebuild. But to your point about this enrichment, the Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Iran has been 100% within their rights under international law. Oh, 100%. Yeah, Chris Murphy is out of his mind for stating this. It's just a complete distortion of the truth.
Highly enriched uranium is located, right? I mean, do they know they destroyed it? Do they even know where it is, right? Here's how he answered the question.
I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level? Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon.
So, Senator, he very clearly did not say that he knew where the uranium was, which would mean that obviously that would flow from there to not know how much there was or its state. Do you think that we know what we need to know here?
Okay, the old man is doing the rounds on the media again. He's calling the journalists again. President Trump spoke to me about the ceasefire deal in an exclusive interview. He said, "It's a great day for America. It's a great day for the Middle East. I'm very happy to have been able to get the job done. A lot of people were dying, and it was only going to get worse." When asked how long the ceasefire would be, President Trump said, "I think the ceasefire is unlimited. It's going to go forever." When asked if the war was completely over, he said, "Yes, I don't believe they will ever be shooting at each other again." President Trump also said that of the conflict with Iran, it would have brought the whole Middle East down. He added this about the ceasefire deal: "It's a wonderful day for the world, in my opinion." Okay, I need to make something clear here. Here was a really cool way that Trump could have avoided all of this. Telling Israel not to strike Iran, because we have only, at best, set the time frame back. Yeah, frame drops, I know. We have only set the time frame back to 12 days ago, and there's been a lot in those 12 days that's bad for both Iran and Israel. So this is not a W. Why are people, who the would look at this and go, "That's cool, this is actually dope"? Unless somehow this also, through back channels, is telling Israel to just cut it out with Gaza or some, which I heavily doubt. There was no W here at all. Trump allowed this event to unfold. He created chaos. People were like, this is the worst type of chaos. What the are you doing? And then 12 days later, he was like, all right, chaos over. Look, I saved it. It's like, but you started it. You let the chaos happen. You let the chaos happen for 12 days only to turn around and I guess like stop even more chaos from taking place. Like, how is this a W? This is the same principle behind the tariff stuff. Like, this is the same. Oh, I'm going to do maximum tariffs. Okay, I'm not going to do maximum tariffs. Oh, you're brilliant, sir. Thank you so much. How many more times does this have to happen? The only way I see this, the only way I what I feel like took place is Israel's air defenses are diminished, and we'll see if Iran actually retaliates in this last barrage of missiles. We'll see how much the Israeli air defenses are diminished. Okay, but if the only thing I can foresee happening here is that Israel's air defenses were so diminished, and America did not have appetite for further war with Iran, and therefore, I guess they had to cool off a little bit before they could re-up on their air defenses, and then Israel will most likely try it again. What does this mean? Israel told the U.S., first we strike. Only after a victory can the right agreement follow. That was the IDF's approach with Hezbollah and Lebanon, and now again with Iran. It appears to have worked for the second time. What? Is it all just fake news to distract people from the fact that ISIS is deporting people? No. That's secondary. That has nothing. The distraction stuff is so silly because, like, this is a severe escalation. Like, World War III cannot be a distraction from ICE deportations. You know what I mean? And now there's several large explosions being reported in Taji, north of Baghdad. Radar equipment in the U.S. base in Taji camp were destroyed with drones. No, it's not a false flag. Guys, the ceasefire hasn't been finalized yet. Iran still has Iran still has like 4.5 hours to retaliate against Israel, and this is Iraq anyway. Israel's Channel 12 reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu instructed ministers at the end of a 4-hour cabinet meeting not to comment on the latest developments until further notice. Aren't you proud of our country? You live here, dude. And Iran was gearing up to build nukes, and their government hates America. What more do you need? No, I'm not proud of my country. Why would I be proud of my country? These past 12 days were not a moment of pride. It was a shameful experience. More than 600 Iranians, until this last batch of bombings took place, more than 600 Iranians were killed, thousands injured. On the Israel side, 25 plus Israelis were killed, hundreds injured. Some of them were, having panic attacks, which the Israeli government considers an injury. And none of that had to happen at all, because what you think was Iran gearing up to build nukes was just a lie that you decided to believe. They did not. If anything, they might now. They probably won't, because they are, like I said, restrained to a fault. But they weren't before. As a panic attack haver, do not be ableist. I'm sorry. You cannot consider war casualties. You cannot add panic attacks into the number of casualties of war. Okay? Yeah, it's really up. When bombs are flying overhead, you're going to have a panic attack. Many people will. That's insane. That's an insane way to do stat padding. There's like children whose legs are chopped off or stuck under the rubble and will never be the same again. And you're adding someone having a panic attack into that number, because that's what a casualty is. That's casualty numbers are like, people that have been severely, gravely injured. They didn't die, but they almost died. Are you saying that Iran had no intention of obtaining a nuclear bomb? Iran has imperialist agendas too. I don't care if Iran has imperialist agendas or not. There is no intelligence that shows that Iran was on the verge of making a nuclear weapon. There's none. It's just made up. And they didn't even do a good job making it up. So I don't understand where you're coming from. Like, this is this is what's so frustrating about this process is that it's not like the American government even had like a Colin Powell moment. Like they didn't even like go on the national stage with like a trustworthy individual and go to the UN and be like, we have serious information that they have nukes or anything like that. They just basically were like, yeah, Israel told us they have nukes. We believe them. That's it. That's it. Like they didn't even try hard and motherfuckers are still believing in it. That's what's so crazy about it. Marco Rubio literally on national television said, it doesn't matter if Iran is making nukes or not. No, it does matter. That's the most important part of this. Reports are now suggesting that surface-to-air missile launcher and radar site were targeted and are now burning at Camp Taji on the north of the Iraqi capital of Baghdad. Is this the America-hating Twitch stream? No. This is the actual America-loving Twitch stream. I want America to do better. I want America to do better for you, dumb. Like, I'm doing all right. If anything, I want America to do right by you. And it's so weird to me that are having a tough go at it are just like sitting around posturing angrily and going, no, you don't understand. I don't deserve healthcare. I'm a cuck. I don't deserve healthcare. Every dollar should go to Israel. Like, what is this? Like, do you have no dignity? Do you have no interest? Do you have no self-preservation skills? I don't get it. Why are you yelling at me? It makes no sense. What is this? Iran's Ayatollah reportedly in a bunker refuses to surrender?
He is currently the head of the judiciary. He's been very aligned with the IRGC for a number of years, so he's very conservative.
What is happening on CNN?
Kind of viewed as the security candidate. He's 68 years old. And the third is Mohsen Iraqi. He's a former religious advisor to the supreme leader. He would be viewed as kind of a traditionalist candidate and really putting more emphasis on the religious legitimacy of the regime. I think it's important to appreciate that all of these gentlemen are about my age. They're in their 60s, upper 60s here, and they were all young men, 20, 21 years old when the revolution took place back in 1979. So they've seen this through that lens for
what is going
the bulk
on
of their adult lives, and I think are all very much committed to the same principles that the current supreme leader is.
A continuation, not a change. The Ayatollah's son was once top of the list, but according to the New York Times, no longer on it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think.
What do they know that we don't know? Is this are they just like wish casting? Like what's happening?
Excluded him
is there a coup?
Because he didn't necessarily like the idea of family ruling here, so I think he kind of excluded him. You know, another candidate that was mentioned, of course, was Hasan Khomeini, who was the grandson of the founder of Ayatollah Khomeini, who is viewed as a reformist. He's much younger; he's 52. Khamenei's son is 55, so they are a little bit younger, but a little bit more of a reformist on the Khomeini there. But of course he has the name and has that the respect and everything that goes along with that.
And all just so important, though, to consider that, you never know what happens till it happens. But that is a continuation and just a sense of how deep these layers are. And General Votel, I am grateful for your time and thank you. As our breaking news coverage continues from the banks of the Strait of Hormuz, here, a crucial waterway, nearly a quarter of the world's oil travels behind me. Iran threatening as part of its intensification to shut this down. Plus new information just in on the high-stakes 18-hour U.S. mission to take out some of Iran's nuclear facilities. One complete with mid-air refuelings, a series of...
What? By the way, no other outlet is talking about this.
I know it's very late there. The last time we spoke, you were saying it would be very difficult to get reaction from Iranian officials at this hour. But has anything new emerged when it comes to this announcement by Donald Trump that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel?
Yes, a new emerging development on the ground here in Tehran is more of sounds of explosion that we can hear related to the interception of flying objects by the air defense system. Also, we sensed a relatively massive explosion here at the Bureau before we start this live coverage. A few minutes ago, we just sensed the impact of explosion. But still, speaking of your question, we haven't received any confirmation about any deal being reached between Iran and the United States about a possible ceasefire that we heard from the U.S. President Donald Trump. We have to keep waiting for confirmation of whether or not Iran is going to accept that. But still, the reality on the ground, as I told you earlier, was that we've received this strong messages by the Iranian military officials saying that as long as Israeli strikes continue, and right now what we see is the continuation of these strikes, Iran is not going to stop there. Iran is going to strike back to respond to actually Israeli strikes. And now we see this continuation. So with that said, we're not sure whether Iran is going to accept any deal for ceasefire regarding this latest developments that we can see. Also, told you earlier, we've got this statement from the Supreme Leader of the country, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a couple of days ago, who came out in a video message saying that we're not going to accept any imposed peace. And the question here is that whether Iran is going to interpret this proposal.
That we allocated nearly all the B-2 bombers in existence and used more than half of our GBU-57s to strike this sovereign country on behalf of the genocidal apartheid shows how far we've come in acting like their proxy. No, you don't understand. It was a big W. Because we don't even know if it actually successfully destroyed Fordow. Okay, we don't know if we don't even know if they actually successfully destroyed Fordow. And also on top of that, we know for a fact that we didn't get any of the enriched uranium. And you know, great stuff overall. It seems like crazy how much Hasan loves Iran. No, man, this isn't about. First of all, of course, I have no issue with Iran. What the is your issue? What has Iran done to you? I don't want the Iranian people to die. Do you? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with your brain? I don't want anybody to die. Why are you seeing everything from this like incredibly narrow lens where you're like, nope, there's good and then there's bad. The Iranian government is evil. We're evil. Does that mean we should get nuked? We're far more evil than the Iranian government is. What do you mean? The Iranian government is evil. Why? Because they are a repressive regime, right? They're a repressive regime. They hurt their own population. Okay, so do we. And we hurt a ton more people outside of our own population. Should we get nuked? I don't think so. I don't want to get nuked. Well, sometimes I do, because sometimes I'm like, what is this argument? Does the U.S. hang gay people? Sometimes. They have different methods of execution, not on the basis of being gay, but yeah, we still kill people all the time. What are you talking about? Oh, sorry, those people deserve it, right? Even if they're found innocent after the fact. We kill mentally ill people all the time. Our Supreme Court loves the facilitation of lethal execution for mentally ill people nonstop. It's like the favorite hobby of the Supreme Court. Time-honored tradition. I've been to jail during Mazda administration protests, and I still don't want to be bombed. This will make the regime tighten grip. Any military action will make the life of Iranian civilians worse. Only a diplomatic and civil solution is viable. Iranian chatter and longtime Hasan Abi head here. I want to live and watch Hasan Abi broadcasts every day. I've been to jail during the Mazda administration protests, and I still don't want to be bombed. Exactly. But good luck explaining that to these dumb Americans that are baying for blood. They can't comprehend that. They can't be like, oh, but the Iranian people don't like their government, and their government is acting in a way that is not in accordance with the best interests of the citizens. Okay, let's bomb them. Is the most idiotic argument, but it's the only argument for Americans. They're so disgusting. Some Americans are. You know, it's ridiculous. If anything, civil struggle becomes impossible when the population is too worried about getting bombed by a foreign entity that they've watched ethnically cleanse the entire population of Gaza. Like, what are we talking about? Can't wait to liberate the Iranian women from the treacherous grip of the Islamic Republic by assassinating them, by blowing up their homes, by killing their children. This is going to liberate them big time. I can't believe that we are living in the ashes of the failure that was the war on terror, and there are still Americans who eat this propaganda completely. They just go, no, that's the only way to do it. It's not just the Americans. The Pahlavis Iranian diaspora are also asking for the same thing. It doesn't matter. They serve no purpose other than chirp. It's idiotic. Okay, so do the Cubans that want Cuba to be bombed. So do Miami Cubans. They chirp up about how little we've bombed Cuba on a yearly basis. Does that mean we should bomb Cuba? No.
Day as well. There were Israeli officials saying that because of the pressure from President Trump, the Israelis were now trying to wrap all of this up by the end of the week. This is before the announcement from the American president. So it's still a little bit unclear where we stand now because there has been no word from Israeli officials.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Sahoud joining us live from Amman in Jordan. Thanks so much, Hamda. Joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is National...
Lose it. Trump called his favorite Israeli agent, Barak Ravid. President Trump just told me in a phone call, this is the end of the war. This is a great and wonderful thing for Israel and the world. Someone should inform the Iranian citizens in Tehran that are currently experiencing explosions. Hey, guys, you've been liberated. We don't like the administration, but getting bombed from the genocidal regime, no, good luck. Like I'm saying, there are a ton of Iranians in here. I mean, obviously, I hear you. I'm trying to explain to Americans who will never listen that it is insane that this idea that like bombing Iran is going to allow the Iranians to feel liberty once again is the same exact dumb that we said in Iraq. It's the same thing that we said in Afghanistan, same thing we said in Iraq. It's the same thing Israel said in Gaza. It's so stupid, but it doesn't matter. It's a lie, but it doesn't even matter, okay? Because that's just a lie for like the dumbest people to repeat over and over again. I don't think anybody like serious believes that. I don't even think this is a fell for it again award, honestly. If you were willing to entertain this idea that the people feel safer when they're being bombed by a foreign entity, then you're the most easily tricked adult of all time. Didn't bomb civilians, strategical strike on nuclear facilities that intend to create overall herd, multiple countries, USA being number one. No, it's not. That's not true. There's another lie that you just believed for no reason. That's the WMD lie. Just like Saddam had WMDs and he was willing to use it on America is the lie that the American government told to invade Iraq. That is also a lie. Okay? It was not a strategical strike on nuclear facilities. First of all, that in and of itself is already a war crime. I like that we have decided that nuclear power plants and nuclear facilities are just now open targets. What do you think would have happened if the United States actually successfully blew up a nuclear facility? Do you think the civilians would be happy with the radiation poisoning? And also, more than 600 Iranians were killed in the process. So clearly, it was the idea that they weren't targeting civilians is also. Do you remember when Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant was under bombardment in the Ukraine-Russian war and how the media was panicking rightfully, all while blaming Russia for playing with fire? Exactly. I do remember. So what was the point of the strike again? I'm confused. Okay, good. If you're asking this question with sincerity, then that's good. This is the first step towards having a healthy dose of skepticism towards this current administration, which you should apply to every administration regardless. Okay? Great. Iran did not have nukes. Our own intelligence showed that Iran did not have nukes and did not have the capacity to develop nukes. Okay? That's our own intelligence community's assessment. The only people that were saying Iran is about to get a nuke tomorrow, any day now, was Israel. They've been saying that. The same guy, Benjamin Netanyahu, has been saying that since 1992, for the record. And I think everyone knows at this point that when Israel is saying something, it's most likely a lie. Okay? So what was the point of this strike? The point of this strike was basically to entertain our most valuable ally, Israel's genocidal ambitions. That was the only point. Israel wanted regime change in Iran. They started this amidst a denuclearization negotiation that Iran was conducting with the United States of America. They started this under the cover, the protective cover of said denuclearization agreement. Okay? Israel did this specifically for regime change. The nukes, the fake nukes lie was the casus belli. It was nobody really believed it, but it didn't really matter ultimately. The entire point of the strike was so that we were playing ball with Israel. We were playing ball with Israel and showing them that we are willing and able to also strike Iran and maybe even go to war with Iran at the behest of Israel. Okay? But the Iranian retaliation was also significantly limited against the American bases. And in the aftermath of the Iranian retaliation and its limitations, the American government came back and apparently put together this ceasefire, told Israel to stand down, which they will in a couple hours, and told Iran to stand down, which I suspect they took gladly. So now that the ceasefire has been implemented, there was no real goal here. It was just complete idiocy, complete madness, and bloodshed for no reason. Welcome to the Trump administration. He does this all the time. I think we're far from done with Iran. I think the strike was testing the waters on a domestic acceptance. Israel will kill the ceasefire. Something will trigger another start of the conflict. I agree. I don't think Israel is happy about this quote-unquote ceasefire. Reuters White House correspondent says Trump brokered ceasefire in a call with Netanyahu Monday afternoon while VP Marco Rubio. Israel agreed. Wait, what? Israel agreed to it so long as Iran did not launch further attacks. Iran signaled to the U.S. that no more attacks would take place, the official said. So Iran is eating it. Israel's going to continue bombing Iran and Iran's just going to eat it? That is insane. If the Iranian leadership actually said yes to this, they might as well have signed off on their own death warrant. Gotcha. Well, it's always good to hear two sides of the story. Understand and could believe your point of view. I mean, my point of view isn't just like, my point of view is just describing the events that took place. Nothing I said is like even embellished a little bit. Yeah, we saw this image. Witnesses claimed that 3 projectiles struck a civilian building on Ferdowsi Street. According to initial reports, the target was an Iranian nuclear scientist. Israel just carried out another assassination attempt in Tehran. I think agreeing to this, agreeing to be bombed by Israel without any sort of retaliation in an effort to bring forward a ceasefire is the weakest moment of the Iranian regime. If Israeli strikes continue after 3:30 Tel Aviv time, Iran will consider the ceasefire as voided. Source France 24. Okay. Don't forget about the CNN Ayatollah bunker story. I think if it's true, it paints a picture of how such a deal could have been reached. It doesn't make sense because Trump's statement said when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions. This is, again, a pretty weak response anyway from the Iranian side. When is 3:30 Tel Aviv time? Is it like half an hour from now? It's much later, no? Let me see. Yeah, half an hour from now, literally, in the next 30 minutes.
30 a.m. in Tehran. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom with extended coverage of the latest escalation in the Middle East. In the last 2 hours, President Donald Trump has announced what he says is a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran. He's congratulated both countries for agreeing to a complete and total end to hostilities. He says the ceasefire will take effect in stages over 24 hours. Neither Israel nor Iran have confirmed that they have agreed to this. Here's what President Trump wrote. Congratulations, everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and...
Bro, the fact that Israel is not saying anything and has told, Benjamin Netanyahu has told his cabinet to not reveal any information on this potential ceasefire, and the fact that Israel is bombing Tehran with great intensity at the moment, I'm still confused as to whether or not this is like a real ceasefire or not. Regular flights from China have resumed to Tehran. They're landing in 40 minutes. Who do you trust for your sources? Like, people are saying random things. I'll know when I see it. I don't think it's fake, but we'll see.
What should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. We'll be unpacking the latest development shortly with our correspondent.
Bro, there's something very strange happening. Why do you want the war to go on? I don't. There's something very strange happening in Iran. I don't know. I don't know what's actually happening. There's something very, very strange about this entire
regime
process.
Change might be possible in Iran. In the past few hours, he has these posts on Truth Social saying, God bless Iran. What else have you been hearing? And have any other concrete details emerged?
Well, Donald Trump just gave a phone interview, the first time he's spoken publicly since announcing what he says is a ceasefire deal. He spoke with NBC News saying that it was a wonderful day for the world. And then when asked just how long he believes the ceasefire will be, Trump answered that he thinks the ceasefire is unlimited, that it's going to go forever. Certainly a very jubilant tone to not only what he said in this interview, but also the post, which you just read, that he announced on Truth Social about 2 hours ago. And we're also getting some more reporting from Reuters and from other sources that it wasn't just Trump who...
This is OSINT Defender. I mean, they're unreliable. I'm starting to think that Khamenei is either dead or there has been some kind of coup with the Iranian armed forces, because that is the only way these statements are being made by Trump, Vance, and other officials within the last hour make any sense. Yeah, there's something very, I think there's something very strange happening in Iran, and I don't know what it is. Because the ceasefire doesn't make any sense, because Israel's aims have not been met here at all. So either Trump put the halt on Israel, or something else is happening behind the scenes that we will find out soon. But Benjamin Netanyahu's marked silence on this, the continued heavy bombing campaign in Tehran, Israel's preparing for the possibility that Iran will fire heavy missile barrages before the ceasefire goes into effect. Per Channel 12's Yaron Avraham, Israel prepares for the possibility of a relatively heavy barrages in the final hours before a ceasefire. I mean, that's what I suspected as well, but it's weird that they're being like oddly quiet. Shaku? No shot. Could you go over what's strange about this? I mean, everything is strange about this. Trump comes out and says there's a ceasefire. Iranian officials first say there is no ceasefire. Then the ceasefire is only confirmed through Qatar. They say this was a high-level ceasefire that was conducted. The ceasefire also has like weird provisions in it. Like Israel can still undisturbed bomb Tehran over and over again with no retaliation from Iran whatsoever. Trump says the ceasefire will be permanent, which is also incredibly suspicious. No statements from any high-ranking officials on the no statements from any high-ranking officials from like the Ayatollah or any of the usual parties that would seemingly talk in this process. I don't know.
Perhaps it would have been prior to this ceasefire announcement, but I will tell you that across the board in these few hours since he made this announcement, there has been a lot of praise for Trump. We heard from the U.S. House Speaker.
An American military base had an explosion on their radar site in Baghdad.
Trump deserves all the credit that this is what, quote, peace through strength looks like, and that it's really a big sigh of relief on Capitol Hill. We've seen Republicans who were all just about to submit a resolution that was, in a sense, chastising Trump for going forward with those military strikes on Iran without consulting Congress first. Now the sponsor of that saying that he was going to withdraw it, now that if there is a ceasefire, that the point would be moot. And we're seeing, Trump's MAGA followers also praising this action.
Yeah. Trump's MAGA followers are stupid. Who cares? Baghdad Operations Commander Lieutenant General Walid al-Tamimi has now confirmed that an unknown drone targeted an air defense and radar site at Camp Taji to the north of the capital earlier, resulting in significant damage to the site, but no casualties among the Iraqi armed forces. That's weird too. From the outset, Israel's aims were unmistakable. Torpedo U.S.-Iran diplomacy, drag Washington in the conflict, take out Iran's nuclear and missile programs, trigger regime change. If the ceasefire Trump just announced holds and is paired with a serious U.S.-Iran diplomacy, it would mark a strategic defeat for Israel in launching this war. Netanyahu took a shot, a desperate Hail Mary, and none of it has worked up until now. Fordow was evacuated. The site may very well be intact. And in any case, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile and advanced centrifuges are now hidden with a stronger covert breakout ability than ever. The Iranian public has rallied in defense of the country and against foreign aggression. If the government channels this unity into a new social contract, it could be transformative. If not, the old polarization may return. Meanwhile, Iran has hit Israel hard over the last 12 days. Tel Aviv, Haifa, the north, south, and other cities have seen major destruction. Military and intelligence sites damaged. Energy and research infrastructure hit. Israel's vaunted air defenses failed the test. Its reliance on the U.S. has never been clearer. Netanyahu saw the cost of war of attrition and blinked. But for Iran, can any ceasefire be trusted? Unless it's tied to credible U.S. diplomacy, not maximalist demands, and unless Israel halts covert attacks and assassinations and continued airstrikes a la Lebanon and Syria, this truce will likely collapse. Trump helped create this mess by enabling Netanyahu. If he truly wants to stop the region from being destroyed, as he just said, he left to restrain Netanyahu and force a ceasefire in Gaza too. Lasting peace is impossible until Netanyahu and his war-first approach is gone for good. Yeah, none of that's going to happen. I don't think Israel's stopping any of that. Remember, Netanyahu explicitly said Israel's military operation in Iran could continue for as long as it takes to eliminate what he called the existential threat of Iran's nuclear program and arsenal of ballistic missiles. That hasn't happened. Far from it. As The Economist noted, Israel wanted at least 2 weeks to destroy Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities. It achieved neither. Without regime change or capitulation, the war makes sense only if it can set back Iran's nuclear program by years, and it hasn't. I think this was a tremendous defeat for Israel, regardless of the fact that they were able to assassinate hundreds of IRGC leaders and nuclear scientists. Okay? I do not think that I do not think that Benjamin Netanyahu got his ambitions out of this. A second explosion in the Iraqi army? What? What the is going on in Iraq, bro? Yeah, I already covered this. A source told France 24's English that if Israeli strikes continue past 3:30 a.m. Tel Aviv time, just 23 minutes away, Iran will consider the ceasefire null and void. Unconfirmed reports of explosions at Camp Victory at Baghdad International Airport. Hundreds of liters? Yes. By Iranian estimations, you were saying an hour ago that this was a big L for Iran. It is. It is still a ginormous L for Iran. It is just simply also a ginormous L for Israel. Iran did not achieve a significant victory here because it did not actually establish deterrence. It was not able to defend its military commanders. It was not able to defend its boundaries, its borders. Iran got attacked by the United States of America and Israel. I think anyone that says this was a giant victory for Iran is coping because they don't realize that, like, Israel was able to maintain air superiority over Iranian airspace for extended periods of time. And if you think that they're not going to do this one more time once they re-up and rearm on their anti-air defenses, you're silly. The only major setback for Israel here is that they weren't able to get it done this time. What if Iran's lying crazy mode and at 3:31 they just randomly launch a nuke? That's not going to happen. If I were to measure the successes of Iran, I would say this much. Restrained or not, it doesn't matter. They were able to successfully continue a war of attrition with ballistic missiles alone, and were able to wither away and deplete and exhaust the limited resources of Israel's air defenses. Tel Aviv and the rest of Israel proper is no longer seen as this island that is an impenetrable fortress. Israel's public will always now suffer potential repercussions. They will know that if Israel decides to behave in the ways that it has, at least against Iran, that there are still severe penalties. Israel only gets to behave in the violent ways that it does because it has created this assurance for its population that we do as much violence as possible, but you don't experience it. You can do, like, gay liberal laptop work or whatever and drink kombuchas and matcha in the morning while there is a unlimited genocide happening like 50 miles away. You get to do that. You get to live like a Western style life in the middle of this region because you're defended by unlimited amounts of air defense support from the United States of America. Yes, exactly like America. Exactly like America. The only difference is America is all the way over here, and Israel is in the cheeks of a bunch of countries that have long-range ballistic missiles that can clearly penetrate the Iron Dome and the Arrow defense system and the David Sling and the THAAD and the cruisers that are like literally planted next door to Israel so that they can constantly try to intercept these missiles that are coming in Israel's direction. You can't be doing, gay laptop work while you're doing a genocide. It just can't happen. It can't happen in perpetuity. I do think this. Yes, I agree with this. Very possible that Israel wants a ceasefire because it's running low on interceptors. Reports days ago suggested they were running low and that system is already overwhelmed. Strikes have clearly been getting through. Might be a temporary ploy to restock and resume the war. That's what I think as well. The internet says otherwise? What do you mean? What is the internet saying? There's 14 minutes remaining. 14 minutes remaining until the ceasefire deadline is passed. Iran has already stated that they are going to strike or the ceasefire is void if they go beyond the point, and Israel hasn't stopped striking. Apparently, heavy airstrikes are continuing against Western Tehran still. Now, the other side of this, of course, is that Iran has no launches that have taken place so far. Iran has not launched any counterstrikes in retaliation, even though they signaled that they would. That's also interesting. I don't know what the they're planning. I also don't know what's going on in Iraq. Apparently, there's explosions happening in Iraq. There are initial reports of casualties at the Baghdad International Airport that was struck. Explosions reported near Baghdad International Airport and the Balad airbase. Initial reports of casualties at Baghdad International. The source of the fire is currently unknown. The idea of a buzzer beater ceasefire missiles is crazy. It's not unique. Israel always does that. What's unique is Israel is doing this to a country that has the capability of striking back for once. When Israel did this to Lebanon, Lebanon had no capacity to penetrate the Iron Dome as successfully as Iran had. Yeah.